I guess the talk was a Crawford fight. Now it looks like the Jake Paul fight is done, by all accounts.
I don't see it. I see Canelo is not just has more power, but he's a better fighter.
The world of boxing is constantly evolving, and the latest buzz centers around an unexpected yet highly anticipated matchup, Canelo Alvarez versus Jake Paul. What seemed like an impossible fight a few years ago is now closer to reality, with various boxing experts, promoters, and former champions weighing in on the potential clash. While Canelo is widely regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, Jake Paul has carved a unique path in boxing, surprising many with his ability to sell fights and win against notable names. The fight raises numerous questions. Can Jake Paul truly compete against an elite champion like Canelo, or is this purely a business move driven by massive financial incentives? We break down the expert opinions, analyze key statements, and explore why this fight is stirring so much debate in the boxing world. Eddie Hearn, one of the biggest promoters in boxing, recently stated that the fight between Jake Paul and Canelo Alvarez is essentially finalized. This announcement caught many by surprise, as most fans never imagined that Canelo, a four-division world champion, would entertain a fight with a YouTuber turned boxer. However, Hearn's words suggest that the negotiations have reached a point where both parties are on board. Given Hearn's reputation for delivering blockbuster fights, his statement adds credibility to the idea that this bout is not just speculation, but a concrete reality. The fact that someone of Hearn's stature is backing the fight indicates that the business aspect of the event is undeniable. With the sport increasingly driven by entertainment value and revenue generation, Canelo vs. Jake Paul aligns perfectly with the current trend of crossover fights that capture mainstream attention.
I guess the talk was a Crawford fight. Now it looks like the Jake Paul fight is done, by all accounts.
Jeff Mayweather, a well-respected boxing trainer, weighed in on the fight, stating that if it happens, the whole world will be watching. He confidently predicted that Canelo would win and that the fight wouldn't last more than 5 rounds. His assessment is based on the significant skill gap between the two fighters. While Jake Paul has shown improvements in his boxing ability, Canelo operates on an entirely different level. Mayweather's statement suggests that the fight is more of a spectacle rather than a competitive match. However, the sheer interest generated by Jake Paul's involvement ensures that the event will be a major financial success, regardless of the outcome. Even if the fight is one-sided, fans will tune in to see whether Jake can withstand Canelo's power or if he will crumble under the pressure of facing an elite opponent.
I think that if the fight happens, everybody will be watching it. And I think that Canelo will win the fight. I would say maybe at the most 5 rounds.
In another statement, Eddie Hearn emphasized that the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jake Paul is actually bigger than a potential matchup between Canelo and Terence Crawford. While this may seem like an exaggeration from a pure boxing perspective, Hearn is looking at the business side of the equation. Jake Paul brings a massive audience from his social media presence, which transcends the traditional boxing fan base. Crawford, despite being one of the best fighters in the world, does not generate the same level of mainstream appeal. This highlights the modern state of boxing, where entertainment and marketability sometimes outweigh pure skill. Whether this is good or bad for the sport remains a topic of debate, but Hearn's statement reinforces that Canelo versus Jake Paul is a major financial event.
You know, maybe the Jake Paul fight put people's nose out of joint, and I don't know. But the reality is like, the fight's much bigger than Crawford against Canelo.
Promoter Frank Warren raised concerns about the weight disparity between Canelo and Jake Paul, questioning whether the fight can even happen under fair conditions. At the same time, he acknowledged that money is the primary driving force behind this matchup. Warren himself admitted that he would rather see Canelo fight Terence Crawford, a more competitive bout on paper. However, the reality is that Jake Paul brings in massive pay-per-view numbers, making this a lucrative opportunity. This fight is another example of how modern boxing is shifting towards events that maximize revenue rather than focusing solely on sporting legitimacy. If the financial incentives align, promoters and fighters alike are willing to make fights that might not have made sense in a traditional boxing landscape.
One of the sticking points is maybe the weight. Do you think it's likely then we do see a Canelo and Jake Paul fight then at this moment in time?
Money would determine that, won't it? You know, everybody said they want to see Jake Paul fight somebody.
What do you
He's going to be fighting somebody. Tough fight. I mean, I want to see the Crawford fight. That's the fight I want to see.
Jeff Mayweather further elaborated on Jake Paul's power, acknowledging that while Jake has knockout ability, it pales in comparison to Canelo's power and technical prowess. He stated that Canelo is not only stronger, but also the vastly superior boxer. Jake has managed to stop fighters in the past, but none of them were on the level of Canelo Alvarez. The key takeaway from Mayweather's comments is that while Jake Paul may pose a slight threat with his punching power, it is unlikely to be enough to trouble Canelo. If Jake cannot hurt Canelo early in the fight, the Mexican champion will likely pick him apart and end the fight in devastating fashion.
I don't see it. I see Canelo is not just has more power, but he's a better fighter.
Eddie Hearn made it clear that Canelo Alvarez is not loyal to any particular organization or promoter. His sole focus is on securing the most lucrative fights available. This means that as long as the financial offer is right, he will entertain the idea of fighting Jake Paul. While some traditional boxing fans may criticize this approach, it is a pragmatic decision from Canelo's perspective. He has already cemented his legacy in the sport, so his priority now is maximizing his earnings. The fight against Jake Paul offers an opportunity for a massive payday, and given Canelo's confidence in his abilities, he likely sees it as an easy win.
Canelo, I'd say always, Canelo don't care, right? Give him the money, and he's going to fight. He doesn't really have, and this isn't a negative towards him, because he makes it clear he has no loyalty to anyone, right? None to me, none to PBC, none to Turkey Al Sheikh. Pay me the money, I will fight whoever you want me to fight. That's basically it.
Eddie Hearn pointed out that while the discussion was once centered around Canelo versus Terence Crawford, it now appears that Jake Paul is the next in line. This shift underscores how Jake Paul has managed to insert himself into the conversation at the highest level of boxing, despite having a limited professional background. While purists may dislike this, it highlights the evolving nature of the sport. With social media influence playing a major role in fight promotions, Jake Paul has leveraged his platform to secure fights that would have been unthinkable in the past.
I guess the talk was a Crawford fight. Now it looks like the Jake Paul fight is done, by all accounts. So does that make the Crawford fight less appealing? Because he's kind of moving into that world now. And I don't blame him, because he's going to make an absolute fortune to punch Jake Paul.
Despite his past criticisms of Jake Paul, Eddie Hearn expressed respect for the YouTuber's willingness to step into the ring with a fighter of Canelo's caliber. While the financial incentives are undeniable, Paul is still taking a significant risk by challenging an elite boxer. This willingness to take on tough fights separates him from other influencers who only fight for entertainment purposes. Whether this risk will pay off remains to be seen, but it is clear that Jake Paul is serious about making a name for himself in boxing.
And I don't mind the fight, I've got to be honest with you. Like, I've given Jake stick over the years because he's done some things that I didn't like, and I'm just being honest. But you have to respect him for taking the Canelo fight. He's doing that because there's a huge amount of money on the table, but I don't mind seeing it. So yeah, I don't know I've no idea whether it's in relation to that or whatever. I've not had one conversation about it, but certainly, you know, Canelo moving into that world, if you like, changes things perhaps in terms of the nature of Canelo Crawford. I don't know. I really don't know.
Boxing analyst Adi Oladipo stated that while Jake Paul has made impressive strides in the sport, Canelo Alvarez operates on an entirely different level. He suggested that if Canelo truly wanted to, he could end the fight within a minute. This emphasizes the sheer skill gap between the two fighters. While Jake Paul has proven he can box at a certain level, he is now facing one of the best in the world. If Canelo does not take it easy on Jake, this fight could be over almost immediately.
And I mean this respectfully to Jake Paul. This is Canelo we're talking about. This fight doesn't last a round. Like, if Canelo wanted to get Jake Paul out of there in a round, in a minute, I believe he does that. Again, this is no discredit to Jake Paul. I think what Jake Paul's done in the sport of boxing has been incredible. I think what him and his brother have done in just the world of entertainment has been incredible. But Jake Paul is fighting potentially a guy that's top 5, top 6 pound for pound. a guy that's only lost to Dimitri Bivol and Floyd Mayweather, a guy that's still very much at the top of his game.
Oladipo also noted that Jake Paul's team may be motivated by the success they have had with Netflix, looking to replicate their past achievements by organizing another major event. If this fight follows the pattern of Jake's previous fights, it will be a highly marketable and financially successful event, even if the competitive aspect is one-sided.
The kahunas
Yeah.
and Jake Paul to wanting to get in the ring with Canelo at this stage of Canelo's career. This isn't an Anderson Silva, this isn't a Mike Tyson, this is a legit live boxer. It's crazy, but considering the numbers they did on Netflix, I can imagine Nikisa and Jake Paul sitting down with Netflix and saying, okay, how do we try and get something like that again?
Recent reports suggest that Canelo already has 4 fights lined up for September. This raises questions about where the Jake Paul fight fits into his schedule. If Canelo is committed to these bouts, his fight with Paul may be pushed to a later date.
Canelo in Riyadh in May, the big fight in the history of boxing. In September, then 2 more fights in 26. Don't miss with the Lion.
Canelo Alvarez recently addressed the talk surrounding Terence Crawford as a potential opponent. While showing respect to Crawford's skills, Canelo found it surprising that people are considering a fighter who competes at 147 pounds as a serious challenger. He pointed out that Jermell Charlo, a naturally bigger fighter, is already being discussed as a viable opponent, making it somewhat unrealistic to consider Crawford in the same category. Canelo emphasized that size matters in boxing, and moving up too many weight classes could be a dangerous gamble.
I respect Crawford. He's a great fighter, and I always say that. No disrespect to him, but sometimes it's a little crazy that people talking about a small fighter like Charlo. He's big, which he is big, and everybody's talking about if I'm gonna face Crawford, fighter 147, who is smaller than Charlo. So no make sense when you guys say that right now.
Canelo Alvarez is known for his grueling training camps, which focus on improving his strength, endurance, and boxing intelligence. His camp is designed to push him to his physical limits, ensuring that his punches remain powerful, his footwork stays sharp, and his defense remains impenetrable. With world-class trainers guiding him, Canelo continues to refine his skills, proving why he remains one of the best fighters in the world. On the other hand, Terence Crawford also takes his training to the next level. He prioritizes speed, footwork, and adaptability, making him a nightmare for any opponent in the ring. Crawford's ability to switch stances and adjust his game plan mid-fight sets him apart from many other boxers. His training camp focuses on refining these abilities, ensuring that he remains sharp and ready to take on any challenge that comes his way. Former champion Caleb Plant had high praise for both Canelo and Crawford. He described Crawford as a special fighter with exceptional punching power and the ability to fight in multiple styles, whether orthodox or southpaw. Plant believes Crawford's versatility and skill make him a formidable opponent, adding to the excitement surrounding a potential matchup between the two fighters. However, he also acknowledged that there are still many unanswered questions about how the fight would unfold, making it a thrilling possibility for boxing fans.
Terence is not a regular guy, you know what I'm saying? He's special. And, Canelo, he's a top-notch fighter, world-class fighter. Still on the pound-for-pound list, I'm sure towards somewhere near the top. And it's exciting. Terence is freakishly strong. He can punch, he's got good crack, he can fight from both ways. Orthodox, southpaw, he can fight at mid-range, close range, outside. And he can fight going both ways, so it's exciting. It's a big question mark on the end of it, though. So that's why I'm sure all of us are excited for that bell to ring and be able to find out firsthand.
Teofimo Lopez did not hold back when asked about a potential fight between Canelo and Crawford. He jokingly predicted that Crawford would get knocked out in the 8th round, confidently putting it out into the universe. However, he also admitted that even if the fight went in a different direction, he would still stand by his 8th round prediction.
What round does Crawford get knocked out? I'm gonna put 8. Let's put it on the universe. So I'm gonna put it on 8. 8. And if it goes the other way, I 8. You know, I 8.
Boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. weighed in on the discussion, stating that weight alone will not determine the outcome of a fight between Canelo and Crawford. Instead, he emphasized that the key factor will be Canelo's approach in the ring. If Canelo sticks to his usual strengths and fights strategically, he should secure the win. However, if he makes mistakes and underestimates Crawford's ability, the fight could swing in Crawford's favor.
The weight won't be the factor. The factor will be how Canelo chooses to make the fight. Canelo comes out there what Canelo should do, Canelo wins the fight. Canelo comes out and does what he shouldn't do, Crawford wins the fight.
Veteran trainer Joel Diaz did not mince words when addressing the belief that Crawford could easily defeat Canelo. He called such opinions stupid due to the significant size difference between the two fighters. Diaz stressed that Canelo's power and ability to change the fight with just one punch give him a major advantage. While Crawford has moved up in weight before, transitioning to 168 pounds is an entirely different challenge.
A lot of people that say that Crawford can beat Canelo, no problem. I mean, I respect that, but I just think they're stupid. I mean, excuse my language. The size difference of a bigger man changes everything with one punch. And I can see the same thing. I mean, you saw Canelo Alvarez fighting Amir Khan. Now, look at this. Terence Crawford moved from 47 to 54 to fight Madrimov. What did he do to Madrimov? Nothing. Okay, Madrimov was a 54-pounder. Now, to move up to 168, that's 2 more divisions.
Diaz continued his argument by highlighting Canelo's durability. He pointed out that Canelo has taken powerful shots from heavy hitters like Gennady Triple G Golovkin and still kept moving forward. He believes that while Crawford is a great fighter, he may not have the power to withstand Canelo's relentless offense. According to Diaz, Canelo's resilience and ability to absorb punishment give him a clear edge in this matchup.
Canelo Alvarez will take any punch from Crawford, but I don't think Crawford will take any punches from Canelo. Remember, Canelo got hit by Triple G, the heaviest hitter in that division. And Canelo took those shots like a champ. I don't think Crawford has anything to beat Canelo.
Promoter Frank Warren expressed enthusiasm for a potential Canelo versus Crawford showdown. He called it a fantastic fight for boxing fans and believes that if the right people are involved, it could become a reality. Warren sees this fight as an important event for American boxing and stressed the need for high-profile matchups to keep the sport thriving.
But if it's done, I mean, as a boxing fan, I can't wait to see that fight. It's a fabulous fight. If anyone can get it done, His Excellency's the man, and he's been a massive fan of both those guys. And I know when we sit down and talk about up and coming shows, that's one he's always said he'd love to see. And I'm pretty positive that it will happen, and fingers crossed they get that over the line, because what a fight that'll be between those two, and a great fight for American boxing.
Yes,
it's a real great fight. You need great fights there.
Former champion Sean Porter believes that Crawford has some key physical advantages over Canelo. Specifically, he noted that Crawford's height and reach could play a major role in the fight. Porter thinks these attributes could make things difficult for Canelo, giving Crawford opportunities to control the distance and dictate the pace of the fight.
I just said it, and Terence is already taller than him, has the reach, I'm telling y'all, that's a 50-50 fight.
Okay.
That's a 50-50 fight. It's actually perfect timing for both guys.
Porter further explained why now is the perfect time for this fight to happen. He pointed out that Canelo has fewer major opponents left to face, making Crawford an intriguing option. While Canelo has the experience and proven track record, Crawford's timing and skill could make it a highly competitive bout. Porter believes both fighters have something to prove, making this a must-watch fight.
Canelo Alvarez is is losing big name fighters to fight against. There's really no one else with a big name for him to fight against.
Yeah.
Benavidez deserves that fight, but his status isn't the level that Canelo, you know, kind of forced it with the young kid that he just got in the ring with. Edgar Berlanga. He forced it with Edgar, you know, and he's that guy that you can get people to come to the fight no matter who you're in the ring with, you know. But all that being said, same thing for Terrence. Terrence is fighting a Canelo Alvarez who's been around the block. Canelo Alvarez who's been in quite a few wars. And, you know, I think it's perfect timing for both guys.
Blair Cobbs, a longtime supporter of Terrence Crawford, admitted that predicting the outcome of a fight between Crawford and Canelo is difficult. While he admires Crawford's skills and considers him a good friend, he acknowledged that Canelo's power and toughness pose significant challenges. Cobbs believes Crawford has the ability to win, but he also recognizes that it would be one of the toughest fights of his career.
I don't know. It's just hard for me to see, and like I'm a really big fan of Crawford. I've called him out for years, and I'm really good friends with Crawford. I think this would be a very, very steep task for him. So I'm not really picking anybody. I just really want to see a good fight. I would love to see Crawford pull it off, but it's very hard for me to see all of that happen with the variables of Canelo. Canelo is pretty tough, pretty good.
With expert opinions divided and anticipation building, the potential fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford has the boxing world buzzing. Will size and power be the deciding factors, or will skill and strategy overcome the odds? One thing is for sure, this is a matchup that fans will not want to miss. For more in-depth boxing analysis, predictions, and updates on all the latest fights, be sure to subscribe to Boxy Hub. Stay tuned for exclusive content and expert breakdowns of the biggest matchups in the sport.